Put thousands of humans together, and you get thousands of different answers on how to live. We naturally form different religions, cultures, and clashing opinions. This inescapable human reality is called pluralism. For most of human history, maintaining order among all those competing ideas meant relying on a simple tool: force. A central ruler demanded conformity, and if you disagreed with the state's chosen religion or culture, you were punished. That historical default raises a difficult problem. How can a society ensure peace, security, and cooperation without forcing everyone to act and think exactly the same way? A political philosophy called liberalism emerged as a structural solution to that exact problem. Think of it as a societal operating system. Instead of a central state dictating terms, this model shifts the focus outward, making the individual person the primary unit of moral value. By placing the individual above the state, this philosophy replaced the demand for absolute obedience with a framework built on personal choice. To build this system, you have to start with a foundation of specific guarantees. Every single person is granted rights that the government cannot take away, like the freedom to speak your mind, practice your religion, and own property. However, those freedoms are not absolute. As the 19th century philosopher John Stuart Mill argued, your liberty to act ends the moment your actions cause direct harm to someone else. This boundary is known as the harm principle. Enforcing that boundary requires a government. But here is the structural paradox. The very institution powerful enough to protect your rights is also the institution most capable of crushing them. To solve this, liberal societies rely on a written constitution. This document creates a framework called the rule of law, which explicitly defines and restricts what the government is actually allowed to do. Under this framework, no ruler sits above the law. Whether you are a billionaire, a politician, or an ordinary citizen, you face the exact same legal standards and constraints. The Constitution acts as a protective firewall. It ensures the state operates on predictable, written rules rather than the arbitrary mood swings of whoever happens to hold office. With the boundary set, the system needs an engine. In a liberal society, political authority is generated by the consent of the governed, which is routinely measured through competitive elections. To keep that engine from running out of control, authority is intentionally fractured. By dividing power into separate legislative, executive, and judicial branches, the system prevents any single group from gaining a monopoly on control. The judicial branch serves a highly specific function here. Independent courts give ordinary citizens a mechanism to legally challenge the actions of their own government, rather than simply having to obey. While there is broad agreement on these basic mechanics, there is fierce disagreement on how large and active this government engine should actually be. This debate creates a massive fork in the road. One major tradition is classical liberalism. It prioritizes what the philosopher Isaiah Berlin called negative liberty, which is the freedom from outside interference. This approach requires the smallest possible government, strong private property protections, and deregulated free markets. On the other side is social liberalism. This tradition emphasizes positive liberty, arguing that simply leaving people alone is insufficient. It asserts that true freedom requires the government to actively provide resources like education, healthcare, and social safety nets, so people actually have the capacity to make choices. This ongoing friction between negative and positive liberty forms the exact dividing line in almost every modern debate over taxes, regulations, and the proper scope of the state. By securing property rights and protecting open scientific inquiry, these structural mechanics create an environment where long-term investment and entrepreneurship can thrive. In many societies, this stability has translated into steady economic growth and a higher rate of technological discovery. But the system has known bugs. Relying heavily on free markets to distribute resources can lead to significant economic inequality, leaving wide gaps in wealth between different citizens. There is also severe procedural friction. Because democratic institutions require constant debate, legal reviews, and compromise, decision-making is often slow compared to the rapid dictates of an authoritarian system. Additionally, elevating personal choice above all else carries a social cost. It can gradually erode shared community traditions, sometimes leading to a fragmented society where individuals lack a common identity. Liberalism accepts these messy trade-offs by design. It prioritizes the protection of individual freedom and legal procedures over the efficiency of forced order. Today, that structural design is facing severe modern stress tests. The rise of artificial intelligence, mass data collection, and viral misinformation are forcing societies to figure out how to police digital spaces without violating the right to free expression. Simultaneously, populist movements around the globe are directly targeting the core pillars of the liberal machine, actively attempting to dismantle independent courts, bypass a free press, and remove constitutional checks on executive power. Surviving these tests requires returning to the philosophy's original objective, figuring out how to maximize individual liberty and maintain justice, while sharing a society with people who hold deeply conflicting views. Liberalism functions as a continuous, active method for balancing the protection of human rights against the volatile realities of human nature.